There's an old woman who lives way up in the mountains of Japan. She's children are grown and gone, and her grandchildren are grown and gone, but I'm going to call her grandmother because she is one. And she lives alone in those mountains because she likes it that way. Grandmother isn't rich, but she isn't poor. She has enough to make rice for dinner every night. She can make rice 100 different ways, but at this stage in her life, mostly she makes rice cakes. Not those styrofoam discs you get in the store in the plastic bags. Real, fresh Japanese rice cakes. Sweet, soft, and savory. One night, Grandmother was making her rice cake when it slipped from her hand, fell out the window, and started to roll down the mountainside. Grandmother wasn't poor, but she wasn't rich, and she had never wasted food in her life. So out the door after the rice cake she went. Down, down, when out of the shadows rose an Oni. An Oni is a Japanese night monster. This is before anime. So no big eyes, no breakfast cereal product placement deals, nothing but ugly. This one's red as the rising sun on the flag, 2 sharp fangs pointing down, 2 sharp horns pointing up, all gnarled and stench. In one clawed hand he's holding an iron club, and in the other he's got Grandmother's rice cake. Grandmother is not sharing her rice cake with any Oni. So she yelled, this is what you're supposed to do if you ever encounter an Oni. She yelled, "Stop, Oni! Give me back my rice cake!" But Oni didn't listen. He went running off down the mountain. Grandmother went running after him down the winding path. "Stop, Oni! Give me back my rice cake!" Through the narrow straight. "Stop, Oni! Give me back that rice cake!" And they almost ran smack into the side of another mountain, which opened. In went Oni, in went Grandmother, and the mountain closed behind them. And now they're going down and down into the bowels of the earth. Grandmother can hear to one side an underground stream. She doesn't have to see Oni anymore, which is good because she can't. She can follow the sound of the stream down and down until she comes to a great open cavern dripping with stalactites and filled with Oni. It was a rainbow coalition of Oni. Blue ones, yellow ones, green ones, orange ones, every single one of them ugly. And the red one that was holding her rice cake held out a single grain of rice and said, "Cook!" Well, there was a giant fire, and there was a giant pot, and there were all the Oni, and there was one little grain of rice. She dropped it into the pot. She took the giant paddle that was there, and she stirred once, twice, 3 times, and the pot filled with rice. Grandmother had fed children. Grandmother had fed grandchildren. Once there was an international soccer delegation down in the valley. Came up. Grandmother fed all 6 teams, but never had she fed anyone like these Oni. They ate all night, and all day they slept, and Grandmother, exhausted, slept too. And that became her new life. Night after night, cooking and cleaning up after disgusting Oni. Day after day, asleep in the gloom. No light but the smoky fire and the milky drip, drip, drip of those dripstones. Until she said to herself, "Enough!" She had heard the stream. The Oni filled that pot every night. She waited until the last one fell asleep. And then she took the paddle like a yoke across her neck, slung the pot, and went off in search of the stream. And when she found it, she put in the pot, she stepped in, she took that paddle, and she started paddling downstream safe, because Oni cannot get wet. And then she heard a horrible noise, and the pot was sinking lower and lower until there were fish flopping about in the mud. She looked behind her, and there were all the Oni on the bank, swollen like grains of rice to 2 and 3 times their size, just starting to put their feet into the mud. There's a game Grandmother's children used to play. You probably know it. You can't say anything, you just have to make a funny face. For real. A really ridiculous face. Funnier, that's a good one, funnier. Funny faces. And the Oni, they were trying grandmother held on to the kettle, out of the mountain, into the bright sunshine. I don't have to imagine this one. Hello, little help down here. And all the people from the valley came, and they helped grandmother out of the pot. And they helped bring it all the way back up the mountain, built a fire. She filled it with water. She put in 1 grain of rice and stirred once, twice, 3 times. It worked. Everyone went to their houses and got cabbage and dumplings and instruments and stories, and they had a grand feast, night after night after night, until grandmother said, anyone who wants to use the pot is welcome to it. And she went into her house and she made herself some dinner and she ate it. Not every night, but most nights thereafter, alone, because she liked it that way.